Get the power to do more with Storable websites. More marketing, more engagement, more customers moving into your facility. Storable helps operators do more with the most powerful technology in self-storage. Learn more at storable.com/do more.
Alrighty, we are ready to go. So my name is Matthew Beal. I am a product marketing manager here at Storable, and I'm going to be your host for the 4 Operator Imperatives webinar series. Before we get into today's content, though, I wanted to start with a quick overview of our webinar series, kind of where we've been and where we're going. So 2 weeks ago, we dove into our first of our 4 Operator Imperatives, which is titled Optimizing Your Marketing Spend. And in particular, we covered the essentials of SEO, or search engine optimization. And we covered steps that you can take to improve yours, how it can be one of the most cost-efficient elements of your marketing mix, to really ensure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. But today, we're really excited to be hosting a conversation on another topic within optimizing your marketing spend, which is PPC, or pay-per-click advertising. And it's focused on acquiring highly targeted and relevant leads for your facility. And so we'll have significantly more on that momentarily. But in 2 weeks, we're going to also continue this marketing conversation. And we're going to be discussing listings and reputation management. And so as more and more customers are shopping online, your digital reputation is one of the best tools that you have to establish credibility with the customers who are shopping for storage. And so we're going to be walking you through how operators can utilize both of these services to accomplish exactly this. And then I want to start today by diving into kind of the driving forces in the market that have led us to this webinar series. So in 2013, 14, and 15, operators were seeing unprecedented revenue and NOI growth. And this naturally attracted a lot of developers that were taking advantage of being able to build at either a 9 or a 10 cap rate, and then sell those stabilized facilities at a 6 cap rate. And as you can see here on this construction value put in place chart on the top, this spread attracted a good number of investors and developers, which resulted in an enormous amount of development activity. You see that spike there. And as a result, we saw the largest development cycle in the industry's history from 2015 to 18, where we were adding almost 1,000 new builds, new facilities annually. And so starting in 2019, though, we started to see that the consumer demand wasn't quite keeping up with that growth in supply. And so operators have had to kind of start figuring out how to be more efficient with both their operations and their marketing efforts. And then COVID hit. Which significantly accelerated that same gap in consumer demand. And it's really created this kind of perfect storm of increasing supply and decreasing demand. And in addition to that, we've also seen that COVID has stopped a good amount of construction in its tracks. That's definitely a regional thing, depending on where you live, but it's something we've continued to hear from operators. And so we don't believe that any of this is doom and gloom. So I don't want you to hear what we're not saying. After all, the self-storage industry has really continued to perform incredibly well relative to many other industries, especially throughout this health crisis. But with that being said, there are still plenty of challenges that remain. And so we created this webinar series titled The 4 Operator Imperatives to provide you with a framework that prepares you to combat these market forces and to put your business in a position of strength, not only throughout the health crisis, but more importantly, even beyond it. And so each of these imperatives were distilled from countless conversations that we've been having with our clients at Storable, with vendors in the industry, subject matter experts, over the last year or so. And they're at the core of how some of our savviest operators are approaching optimizing both their operational and marketing performance in the face of those market forces. So I want to take a quick peek at each of the 4. First is optimizing your marketing spend. So this imperative is all about identifying the most effective marketing vehicles that you can possibly use. And so we're going to be discussing all kinds of marketing tools you have, including some you don't even need to pay for, to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. And so today's discussion that's on the essentials of PPC falls squarely into this imperative. And we're going to be discussing what PPC is, the impact that it can have on your business, and we're going to define some actionable steps that you can take to integrate it into your overall marketing mix. And so when done well, it can quickly become one of the most targeted tools in your marketing tool belt. And it's important to note that one of the reasons PPC has become so important over the past several years is that there's been a major shift in consumer shopping behavior towards more of a digital services orientation. And this isn't limited to millennials like this industry has definitely thought in the past, or just like most folks might assume. Think how many people in your life, for example, are using Zoom to stay in touch with people, even though they didn't even know that tool existed 6 months ago. Or how many cardboard boxes have been entering your house recently thanks to the ease and convenience of online shopping, right? This whole shift to a kind of a digital engagement model is very important for us to think about in the storage industry. And in addition to this marketing imperative, there's three other ones we'll be discussing over the coming weeks. And that is one, to rethink our tenant experience and the ways that our tenants engage with our business. Simplifying and automating processes so that our employees and ourselves can be focusing on driving value to our business in a variety of other ways. And how we can amplify our operating revenue. What other opportunities are out there to kind of make up for this drop in consumer demand? But without further ado, I want to get into today's conversation. So I'm excited to be joined by Kim Hoggan of Storable's Paid Search Digital Marketing team for a discussion on the topic of PPC. So Kim, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Matt. I am glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to diving into this stuff with everyone.
Yeah, we are too, for sure. So before we get started, would you mind just giving the audience a little bit of kind of your professional history, your background, and your work specifically in the PPC space?
Sure. So I have 8 years of experience in digital marketing strategy. I've worked in a ton of different industries on revenue driving tactics and brand visibility campaigns. Within paid search, I specialize in campaign architecture, keyword strategy, ad copy structure, and analytics. And I'm really excited to be speaking with each of you today.
Thank you, Kim. So let's get into today's conversation, though. So I want to start with a couple of questions for folks, for operators that are really just diving into PPC for the first time, just starting with the basics. So Kim, can you kind of walk us through what PPC stands for, but really how you define it?
Sure, and that's a great question to start with, one that I get a lot actually. So PPC stands for pay-per-click, although you might also hear it referred to as paid search. Basically, it's a way of buying visits rather than earning them organically. Specifically, you pay based on the number of times a potential customer clicks on your ads. It's important to note that while there are many forms of PPC advertising, you've got Google, Bing, Amazon, even Facebook. We are exclusively focusing on Google today, and the reason for that is simple. Google just dominates the search engine market, and because of that, it's the easiest way to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So just to give you an idea of this, the Google search engine accounts for 76% of desktop and 86% of mobile search traffic, respectively. And almost all purchasing decisions, from renting a storage unit to buying a home, begins online with a search. And PPC is the most targeted, easily measurable method to take advantage of this search volume, which makes it a must-have part of your marketing portfolio. So to better understand that, though, we need to understand a little bit of the mechanics of a search result. There are three main elements of a Google search result, and it's important to understand each of them as they relate to PPC. The first section is Google's paid ads section. When you enter a search query such as self-storage Boston MA, seen in this image, you'll notice the first four items are advertisements. These are what we refer to as PPC advertisements and what we'll be discussing today. Below the paid ads is typically the map pack. This is powered partially by Google My Business, which is a service provided by Google. If you haven't created a Google My Business listing for your facility, we'd highly recommend it. As you can see, it's a fantastic way to get even more visibility, and we'll be discussing this in greater detail in the coming weeks. And then after the map pack, customers will see traditional organic search results as seen here. So when people talk about ranking organically, this is what they are usually meaning. And for today's conversation on PPC, as you might imagine, being one of the first things that customers see during their search is incredibly valuable. So if customers are confident that your advertisement can meet their needs, why would they even scroll further?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I'll note that it's always astounding to hear really just how important Google is to a storage operator's marketing strategy. It's crazy to hear those stats of 76 and 86% of all search volume. But, you know, importantly, PPC, it sounds like, you know, it's particularly important in establishing credibility with your customers by, to your point, ensuring your facility is one of the very first things that they see when searching. Is that kind of a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is.
Awesome. So I want to take the conversation then more into kind of the components of a PPC campaign then. What does that actually look like in practice, Kim?
Great question. So now that we've explained a little bit about search engine marketing, organic traffic, and then the different types of PPC, the components of a Google Ads search campaign is the next natural stop. So Google Ads is organized into 4 layers. You've got your account, campaigns, ad groups, and keywords. Your account is associated with a unique email address, a password, and billing information. Typically, your account name will be the name of your company. Next up is campaigns. Your campaigns have their own budget and settings that determine where your ads appear. And your ad groups contain a set of similar ads and keywords. Unless your account's very large, you're typically only going to have a few campaigns that surround broader themes. And you will want to decide on campaign topics based on how you want to divide up your marketing budget, since you set your budget at the campaign level. Under each campaign, you will create ad groups, which will be much more focused. You can have as many ad groups as you want, but it's more manageable to not get too crazy, since you do need to stretch your budget across all of them. Ad groups contain keywords. Usually about 10 to 20 per ad group is recommended, but you can definitely have less. It's, very flexible. So these keywords will trigger your text ads and then direct the searcher to a relevant landing page. Keywords make up each ad group and are very important to controlling which ad is shown when someone searches for something. It's important to do your keyword research and understand what people are actually looking for or searching for. For example, if you have a bunch of 10 by 10 units that you want to move, you may not want to be only using the keyword 10 by 10 unit, as most likely someone isn't actually going to be searching for that specific term. So within keywords, there are what is called match types. And we aren't going to get into this too much today, as we just don't have time, but I want you to be aware of them. So with these different match types, you have more control over what searches match your keywords. There are exact match types, or keywords that will only match searches that are identical to your exact keywords. Then there are phrase match keywords, and that will match with close variations of the keywords. And then there are broad match types that will match a much broader variation to your keyword. And then another very important element of keywords are negative keywords. These are often totally overlooked, but are extremely critical to avoid spending money on irrelevant searches. This is a keyword that prevents your ad from being triggered by a certain word or phrase. For example, if you were using the keyword storage as a broad match type keyword, you potentially could show up for someone that searches for free storage or cloud storage. So if you didn't want to be shown for those search queries, you would want to add the word free and cloud as negative keywords. So there are a ton of different ways to set up your account structure, but one example of how this looks is your account is your overall company, and then each campaign might be a different facility, and then the ad groups within a campaign will be broken into what you offer at that particular facility, like climate control, vehicle storage, indoor, outdoor, that sort of thing. And then the keywords under the ad group would line up with what someone would be searching for within that theme. So each operator ultimately needs to figure out what makes the most sense for their business, though, and this is just an idea, just to kind of give you a starting point. So when you're creating your PPC campaign structure, it's absolutely critical that you also keep the customer experience in mind. Let's take another look at our Google search result from earlier. Okay, in this example, one of your potential customers has searched using the keyword self-storage Boston MA. As we just mentioned, keywords are phrases customers will enter when searching for a storage unit. It's very important that you think like your customers and bid for the keywords that they would likely be using. So here we have your ad is shown in the search results. That's exciting, super awesome, but how do you ensure customers are going to actually click on your ads instead of somebody else's? This is where ad copy comes into play. Ad text or ad copy are the actual words that will appear when your ad is triggered, and you want to use these words to quickly express to potential customers why your facility or offering are the best fit for them. And then you test again to figure out which ad copy works best for conversions. You typically want 2 to 3 different ads per ad group that will direct people to the same landing page. This is a good way to test out different wording and highlight different offers you have. So in this case, we'll click on the third ad for selfstorage.com. This is where the landing page comes into play. This web page lives on your website, and the experience and copy should be very closely aligned with the ad copy they saw on Google. So if it's entirely different, you might imagine that customers would click on the back button and select one of your competitors. For example, if you are advertising a particular special in your ad, but they click through to your website and they don't see that special being offered, they may click right back out. So this is why it's also very important to have a marketing website optimized for converting customer leads into paying tenants. Selfstorage.com, in this example, does a great job of clearly presenting multiple storage options immediately to the customers with pricing and amenity details easily to see, and it makes the decision really easy for the customers.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I love this concept of thinking about your advertising experience through the eyes of the customer. This was something we discussed a couple of weeks ago as well. It's really come up a couple times in the webinars. And I want to make sure it's kind of fair to say that similar to what we discussed with SEO, if you're designing your PPC experience to be valuable for the customers and you're thinking about how they might convert, you're probably going to be heading in the right direction.
Yes, that is totally fair. And that actually leads us nicely into our next section for today, the auction element of PPC. So every time you perform a Google search, Google runs an auction in the background to decide which ad to show. This is called the ad auction. And as we discussed earlier, operators will pay Google for every click their advertisement receives. So what actually determines how much you pay per click? Google tends to make this a bit of a mystery, but there are a combination of factors that go into the search auction. So there's your bid amount. Bids play a large role in determining whether your ad is shown for a keyword. Essentially, you're competing against other bidding or other people bidding for similar keywords as you. And we won't get into the specifics of bidding today because Google offers so many customizable ways to approach it. The basic idea, though, is if someone tells Google that they're willing to pay more per click than you, there's a pretty good chance that their ad will appear ahead of yours. But bidding isn't the only component. So another part is quality score, and this is an algorithm that scores each of your ads for relevancy. It shows how closely your keyword relates to your ad and how closely your ad relates to your landing page content that you're sending the prospective customer to. So the goal here for Google is to provide the best user experience for the searcher. And then we have ad extensions. This also goes into Google's idea of giving the searcher the best user experience. So there are several different types of extensions. One of them is the call extension or the phone number extension. You can actually add your phone number on to your ads so people can call you directly from your ad. They click on your ad and it will send them to your phone number. And then another is location extensions. You can link your campaign to Google Maps or your Google My Business listing, so searchers are able to click right on your ad and pull up directions to your facility. So together, these three factors determine when and if your ad will appear to potential customers. And it's important to note that even if your competition has a higher bid, you can still win a higher position at a lower price by using highly relevant keywords, quality ad copy, and highly relevant extensions. And hey guys, this is Gimli. he likes to be a part of everything I do.
I think he likes ad extensions.
He does like the ad extensions. Anyways, these things are all very important to your ads and in the ad auction. So moving right along.
Thank you, Kim. That's really good stuff. So, now that we've kind of discussed the components of a successful PPC program, the customer experience, how pricing works, I think there's kind of a very natural, next question. And you spoke a little bit about it earlier, which is, one of the biggest benefits of PPC is the ability to accurately measure its success, significantly more so than SEO. We talked about how that was kind of difficult a couple of weeks ago. So when it comes to PPC, how do you go about measuring success for your program?
Great question. And it's a very important question for each operator. They need to be thinking about that for themselves. So Google provides a number of tools and metrics for you to track to determine success and return on your investment. There are 4 basic metrics that every operator should be reviewing though. So you have your impressions. Impressions are when someone searches for one of your keywords and your ad shows up and they see it. So each time your ad is served, it counts as an impression. Someone has actually seen your ad. The next one is clicks. Clicks is when searchers see your ad and then they actually click on it. This requires the searcher to take action and click through to your site. Conversions. Conversions are actions someone can take while on your website that are valuable to your business. These can include filling out a contact us form, clicking the phone number to call your facility, clicking on the move in or reserve button, that sort of thing. So you have the ability to set up website conversions that provide you even more granularity. And you also have the ability to link your Google Ads account to your Google Analytics account, so you can track all of that in Google Analytics. And then the last is spend. Spend is the amount of money you spend each month or budget. How much your spend should be is determined by several factors. One of them being what your overall marketing budget is in any given month. You'll also need to take local factors into consideration, like how aggressive some of your competitors are spending in the same space. You'll want to determine what amount suits your business needs while allowing you to still be competitive enough to gain a good share of the demand. So all of these metrics are provided to you in the Google Ads platform, making it easy to evaluate the success of the keywords and ad copy within your campaign. And you always need to be looking for trends in cost and traffic to understand how any increases or decreases in your cost per clicks can determine, how efficient is your budget, is it working? The trends that you see in your business overall, such as low or high demand on certain weeks or seasonally, typically follow the same pattern in your PPC program.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome that all that is so readily available and just kind of built directly into the Google platform. I do have one more topic that I was hoping you'd walk us through today. So, over the last couple of weeks and throughout this webinar series, we've really been discussing how each of these digital marketing tools, whether it's SEO, PPC, listings management, are really just individual tools that are part of a bigger tool belt, right? They're individual things that you should be thinking about in the terms of a broader marketing strategy. And so would you kind of mind painting us a picture of where you see PPC fitting into an overall operator's marketing strategy?
Sure. So PPC is a really great complement to your other marketing efforts. When you take a step back to think about the customer experience, all search engine marketing is really about is taking up as much of the search result landscape as possible. So the more your company appears on that first page in the paid ad section, the map pack, organic results, the more trust you'll build with the customers. This, of course, leads to more clicks on your website, which then leads to more lead conversions for you. Google actually performed a study a couple years ago where they found that advertisers using both paid and SEO strategies saw an 89% increase in overall clicks to their website. That is a huge boost. So while SEO and PPC are definitely stronger together, I do want to leave you with just a few key differences you should be aware of. SEO is more of a long-term, ongoing process. It should not be a set it and forget it strategy, but one of your ongoing marketing strategies that has long-term benefits. PPC is much more agile than SEO and very easily manipulated. It's a great way to test different messaging with much more immediate results. You can pause PPC advertising if you're full or if it's off season. Do you have the lucky problem of having no more RV parking? Then pause your RV ads until you have open spaces. And then with Google Ads, you can have seasonal messaging. So if you have new specials or promotions you're running, it's super easy to change those out. So, and that is all I have for you guys today.
Kim, that's awesome. I really love that last message in particular. So I want to just kind of revisit that real quick. 2 weeks ago when we were discussing SEO, I will say far and away the most common piece of feedback that we heard from the operators that were in attendance was how surprised they were at how long it can take for them to reap the benefits of an SEO program. And to your point, it's not set it and forget it. It's really it's more of a marathon, less of a sprint. And so, they recognize that it's incredibly important to invest in it. But sometimes they need to make waves quicker, such as, filling a specific unit type, like in your example of RV parking, right? And so it sounds like PPC is a pretty good fit for that use case. And like you mentioned before, a complement to SEO. Is that kind of a fair summary?
Absolutely. That agility is such a huge benefit of a PPC program.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Kim, hey, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I definitely think I speak for everyone in attendance when I say this is, again, incredibly, valuable information. But we did have some questions that came in today. And so if you're open to it, I'd love to be able to take some questions from the audience.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. So, okay. So this first one is definitely something I've heard before. I think we've seen a couple people that have asked this one today as well. So the first one is just when it comes to this concept of monthly budgeting. So we didn't get a lot into budgeting today, but we talked about how you're paying per click, but you can set budgets to make sure that you're only spending a certain amount of money. How do you think about what your monthly budget should be?
Yes, I have also heard this question a time or two. So this question does not have a cut and dry answer. Your monthly budget, first and foremost, really comes down to what you are able and comfortable spending. To be competitive can vary greatly. It depends on your local area, the competition there, what your competitors are spending on their PPC program. We've seen people spend anywhere from $200 a month to $2,000 a month per facility. So it totally depends. Your budget's also going to fluctuate throughout the year, depending on the season. Your high season, you're probably going to want to increase your budget, and then you can cut it back during the off season. So as a general rule, if somebody really wants us to throw a number out there, we suggest starting with an amount of $500 a month per facility. We just found that in the majority of markets, this amount is enough to be at least competitive. But again, I want to stress that this can vary greatly depending on your location and your competition. So
that's awesome. I think one thing I just wanted to add to that as well, Kim, just so based off of a previous webinar discussion we had, is it's also important to just be calculating kind of the lifetime value of your tenant. So, how much are you spending for your tenant, but then also how much are you making off of them? And so when you think about your budget that way, it can really, really, illuminate just kind of how you think about what is. So if you pay X number of dollars for someone, but you're making significantly more than that, then it's totally worth it. And so that's something we talked about in previous webinars. And I think it's incredibly important and relevant to PPC because, to your point earlier, we can track kind of that customer journey and their ability to go through that funnel significantly better. Is that kind of fair?
Yes, no,
yeah,
exactly. And especially
awesome.
If you're able to set up conversions, website conversions, it's a lot easier to be able to track that.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we had another one that came in. We had a couple people ask a question similar to this. So I'm going to kind of do a good job of summarizing these concepts. But everything that, we talked about today was really about how an operator can manage their own PPC program. But we've also had a couple people mention that there are, companies or agencies out there that will do this for them as well. And so would you mind just kind of walking through, like, what are the pros of having a company do it for you?
Sure. Probably one of the biggest benefits of having an outside agency manage your paid search is your time. It frees you up. You don't have to, worry about it. It allows you to focus on your business specifically. Another thing is an agency does this day in and day out, and they do know the little nuances that sometimes make a big difference. Another thing an agency will do is be able to break down that information that you want to see quickly, so you don't have to dig through all that data. They can get it to you, have it right in front of your face, just so it's right there for you to view, and you don't have to be spending time finding it yourself.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think maybe one thing I'd add, Kim, hold me accountable here too, is probably having somebody that knows the industry, because to your point, PPC is all about finding the keywords that make sense for a storage shopper. So you would want somebody that is in that space and really understands the business to be able to set, accurate keywords and negative keywords to be efficient with that spend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Kim, thank you so much. We are wrapping up here. So I do have a couple of things I want to go through before we wrap up today. But first, Kim, again, I just want to thank you for your time. This was incredibly valuable, and I just appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So guys, a couple of things here. As a reminder, in 2 weeks, we're excited to be hosting another conversation within this optimizing your marketing spend imperative. And in particular, we're going to be discussing how you can utilize listings and reputation management to establish credibility with your customers, when they're shopping online. Your reputation is a very big part of a digital shopping experience. And so we're excited to be joined by yet another subject matter expert on this topic. So keep an eye out for an email from us early next week, and we'll be introducing our guest. And then really, frankly, our last question from the audience really set me up here. But at Storable, our goal is to equip our customers with the tools that they need to run their businesses, successfully. And so with that in mind, we've developed some best-in-class solutions for all of your digital marketing needs. So I did want to take just a quick moment to talk about the products and services we offer that are relevant to today's conversation. And so first is Storable Websites. So we have a website product that was created to make self-storage website design, SEO, transaction management simpler than ever before. And so with a sophisticated modern approach and deep industry expertise, our website product works to generate more organic leads while at the same time reducing demands on your management staff. And while this is incredibly effective on its own, our websites are made even more powerful when you combine them with our digital marketing service. And so after all, we just discussed how SEO is not set it and forget it. And so you need to kind of continue investing in that presence to reap the long-term benefits of this, incredibly cost-effective marketing technique. But we realize that not everybody has the time or the expertise to do so. And that frankly, you could be spending that time providing value back to your business in a variety of other ways. And so our ongoing SEO services keep your website finely tuned and operate at a maximum efficiency to ensure that your business is being organically discovered online as often as possible. And then also, like we discussed today, though, a strong PPC program can provide a lot of the value to your business. And so we also offer PPC services that help you cast an even wider net on those marketing efforts. And so we lead them straight to your website, and then we let your website do the rest of the work to convert them into a paying tenant for you. And then lastly is local listings. They have a very big impact on search rankings too. This is the map pack that among some other tools that we were discussing earlier. And you can rest easy knowing that our listings management service is working towards maximizing your domain authority to ensure that your business is being represented accurately and effectively where it can be found online. So if you guys do have any questions or you just want to learn a little bit more about these products or services, feel free to just send us a note. Email us at info@storable.com, and we'll reach out as soon as we can to have a conversation with you. But that concludes today's webinar. If you guys have any questions that come up throughout the week, we did have a couple questions we didn't get a chance to get to. I will be following up with you within the next week or so. But if you have anything else that comes up, send us an email at webinars@storable.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But to all of you guys out there, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks for our next webinar focused on listings and reputation management. But I just want to say thank you guys for attending, and have a great day.